Welcome to previous classes. In continuation to our last class where we were discussing the difference between sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system, let us first discuss the neurohumoral transmission, and based on this we will differentiate sympathetic and parasympathetic. Neurohumoral transmission, here you can see two words are there, neuro and humoral. Neuron, that means from neuron or nerve cell, and humoral is nothing but chemical. So the chemicals present in neuron which are released and transmit the impulse from one neuron to another neuron, or from one neuron to another gland or muscle or any cell. So in that case, that is called neurohumoral transmission. So the message or impulse is transmitted from one cell to another cell. So here one neuron, the one cell is the neuron, so neurohumoral transmission. Okay, and the steps, there are 5 steps of neurohumoral transmission. So first step is called synthesis and storage of neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter, I am writing NT, synthesis and storage of neurotransmitter. As you remember, in the synaptic end ball, there are synaptic vesicles, and inside the synaptic vesicles there are chemicals. Okay, and these chemicals are called neurotransmitters. They are synthesized and stored inside the synaptic vesicles. And the second step is impulse conduction. So when these neurotransmitters has to be released, in that case some impulse must come, and that impulse should be first generated and then conducted. And when this impulse is conducted at this nerve ending, there will be opening of the calcium channels, and this calcium causes fusion of this membrane of the synaptic vesicle with the membrane of the axon terminal, and there will be fusion. So calcium causes fusion of these two membranes, and there will be exocytosis, and there will be release of the neurotransmitter. So the third step is release of neurotransmitter. So first step is synthesis and storage of, first it is synthesized here the neurotransmitters are synthesized in different steps. Then these neurotransmitters are stored inside the synaptic vesicles, then they are released. So when the impulse is conducted through this nerve ending, this calcium is released, and this calcium causes fusion and exocytosis, and then release of neurotransmitters. Now these neurotransmitters act on the postsynapse. So postsynaptic actions of neurotransmitters. So all the pharmacological actions will be there when these neurotransmitters act on the postsynaptic receptors. Okay, and finally this action has to be terminated. So that is called termination of action. These 5 steps, termination of action. These 5 steps are there for neurohumoral transmission. So where will be the difference? Synthesis and storage, because in sympathetic there is adrenaline, in parasympathetic there is acetylcholine, so the synthesis will differ. Okay, then impulse conduction is same for both of them. Then these neurotransmitters will be released. Postsynaptic actions will be different because the receptors are different. There will be adrenergic receptors and there will be cholinergic receptors. Then finally the termination of action. How these actions will be terminated? Number 1 is they will be degraded by the enzymes, so there will be degradation. And sometimes they are uptaken also, uptaken into the presynapse, that is called uptake. Okay, so and already you have studied some of them can also act on the presynaptic receptors. This can also terminate the action. So how? And these receptors are mainly inhibitory receptors, and when these neurotransmitters act on the presynaptic receptors, they inhibit this release of neurotransmitters. That means they somehow inhibit calcium the block release of calcium, and this is inhibited. So these are the three ways. One is degradation by enzymes, second is uptake, third is presynaptic action of neurotransmitters. In these three ways there can be termination, enzyme degradation, uptake, and presynaptic action. Okay, so now we will discuss the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. In sympathetic, the neurotransmitter is noradrenaline and adrenaline. So they are synthesized from the amino acid called phenylalanine. This is the structure of phenylalanine. And this phenylalanine, by the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase, there will be hydroxylation. Okay, hydroxylation. So this is called tyrosine. Another amino acid called tyrosine, and this tyrosine, again by the action of tyrosine hydroxylase, this will be converted to dihydroxy phenylalanine. Dihydroxy phenylalanine. So this is a catechol nucleus. Okay. So this is called DOPA, dihydroxyphenylalanine. So DOPA. Okay. This, by the action of DOPA decarboxylase. DOPA decarboxylase will decarboxylate this carboxylic acid, so it will become OH, CH2, NH2. So this is called dopamine. Okay, and dopamine, this is a catechol nucleus is there and amine is there, so catecholamine. Dopamine is a catecholamine, and this is alpha carbon, this is beta carbon, and by the action of beta hydroxylase, there will be here CHOH, and this is the structure of noradrenaline. Okay. Then another step is there, N-methyl transferase. I am writing here N-methyl transferase. So that will be adrenaline. OH, CH, CH2, NH, CH3. This is adrenaline. So this is a catecholamine, this is also catecholamine, this is a catecholamine because catechol nucleus is there, amine is there. So dopamine, noradrenaline, adrenaline, all are catecholamines. Okay, the synthesis. So once this synthesis occurs here in the exoplasm, then they are stored in the synaptic vesicles. Okay, and in case of acetylcholine, in cholinergic, in case of acetylcholine, only one step is there. Only one step, acetyl coenzyme A plus choline, a alcohol, OH, CH2, N, CH3 plus. Okay, so this is called choline. One step, and the enzyme is CAT, choline acetyl transferase. So what will happen? Ester will be formed, CH3COO, CH2, N, CH3. This is acetyl. Okay, so first step, synthesis and storage of neurotransmitter. Here acetylcholine will be synthesized in case of parasympathetic. In case of sympathetic, noradrenaline will be synthesized, and then they will be stored inside the synaptic vesicles. Okay, one difference is there. In up to dopamine, there will be synthesis. Synthesis up to dopamine occurs in the axoplasm, and then the dopamine is transferred to the synaptic. Dopamine is transferred to the synaptic vesicles. Okay, to the synaptic vesicles. Then inside the synaptic vesicle, further steps should be there. Dopamine will be converted to noradrenaline in the synaptic vesicles. The second step is the impulse conduction. Okay, impulse conduction follows all or non-principle. All or non-principle means it will be either conduction or no conduction. So we know the resting membrane potential is about minus 70 millivolt in case of neuron, and the threshold potential is minus 55 millivolt. So any impulse which can change this potential from minus 70 millivolt to minus 55 millivolt can cause the depolarization. That's why we call it all or none. Means depolation, if depolation will be there, then there will be a repolarization also to minus 70 millivolt. And this occurs when this threshold, any impulse which can change this resting membrane potential to threshold potential, then there will be opening of the sodium channel. And we know in the neurons the two ions are mainly present, and sodium is the major extracellular ion and potassium is the major intracellular ion. So sodium is present more outside, and sodium will move inside, and it will be about plus 30 millivolt. So this phase is called depolarization. Whereas after that there will be opening of the potassium channel, and potassium is major intracellular ion, so potassium will move outwards, and because of that there will be again polarized state. So resting membrane potential will be achieved. So repolarization. And as you know, we can say outside it is electropositive and inside it is electronegative. And when the impulse comes, the outside means sodium enters, so this way there will be the change, and then similarly for this membrane also we can do. Then next step you can see so this one again revert back to its original position, whereas this one will be means this impulse is transmitted in this way. And this is one way phenomenon, because this depolarization followed by repolation, and during the depolation there is the refractory period, means another impulse cannot depolarize from here. So once it is depolarized, then it will be repolarized, then again another impulse can depolarize. Okay, so one way phenomenon, and impulse conducts in this way. And if you see the neuron, so suppose at this point impulse is initiated, then it will go the whole neuron and will come back to this position. So it will be transmitted throughout the neuron. And when it comes to this position, action terminal, the third step we have the release of neurotransmitter, means the now this is dopamine, noradrenaline is inside the storage vesicle, and now inside noradrenaline is there, and when the impulse is conducted through this, there will be opening of the calcium channels, and calcium enters inside, and calcium fuses the membrane of the synaptic vesicle with the action, and all these, because of fusion, all these neurotransmitters are released. Okay, and then the fourth step, so it is same for both sympathetic and parasympathetic, and then the fourth step is the postsynaptic actions of neurotransmitter. So this, after the release of the neurotransmitters, these neurotransmitters now can act on specific postsynaptic cells, and again there are receptors. These receptors are called postsynaptic receptors, and then they bind to those receptors to show their actions, and this can cause either depolarization or repolarization. And if it is causing depolarization, then it is called postsynaptic excitatory potential. Okay, or EPSP rather, excitatory postsynaptic potential, excitatory, because it is causing depolarization. And if it is causing hyperpolarization, that means the polarized state is increasing, then we call it IPSP, inhibitory postsynaptic potential. So in sympathetic we have, if it is sympathetic, then in sympathetic we have, suppose, heart rate. Okay, that is regulated. So the noradrenaline can act on beta 1 receptors in heart to cause increase in heart rate, okay, increase in force of contraction. This is sympathetic. And if it is parasympathetic, then in case of parasympathetic, acetylcholine acts on M2 receptor, again in heart, so it will cause decrease in heart rate, okay, and decrease in force of contraction. So this is the postsynaptic action. And finally we have the termination of action. As we have already discussed, this can be done in 3 ways. And enzymes, for sympathetic, we have to suppose this is the structure of noradrenaline. Then we have 2 enzymes, monoamine oxidase MAO, and another enzyme is COMT, catechol O methyl transferase, catechol O methyl transferase. So these 2 enzymes act. So because of this, there will be methylation of this OH group, OCH3, and the rest will be same. And because of the monoamine oxidation, there will be oxidative deamination. So oxidative deamination causes, initially there will be aldehyde formation, CHO, and the rest will be same. And then further oxidation will cause acid. So there will be formation of mandelic acid, COOH. And then there can be action of COMT. Okay, COMT. So COMT, this will be OCH3, OH, CHOH, COOH. So this is vanillyl mandelic acid. So mandelic acid derivatives are formed, and here after COMT, this is formed from this MAO, monoamine oxidase, oxidative deamination, aldehyde and acid will be formed. So mandelic acid derivatives are formed which are excreted. So in this way there will be termination of action. And in case of parasympathetic, acetylcholine, which we know CH3, COO, CH2, CH2, and CH3, CH3, CH3. So this is an ester and because of hydrolysis there will be acetylcholine by the action of acetylcholine esterase. So enzyme is the esterase, so hydrolysis will be there, so this will form acetic acid CH3COOH plus again choline formation is formed. So there will be degradation and there can be termination of action. So here the enzyme is acetylcholine esterase in parasympathetic, and in sympathetic two enzymes are there, non-aminoacid and COMT. And some minor metabolites are formed in case of sympathetic, because here also by aldehyde reductase this can be converted to CH2OH, so some alcohol derivatives can also be formed. Okay, then the other two we have discussed, the other two ways of termination reaction, uptake. And uptake in sympathetic we can call it as, so neurotransmitter is here, this is called uptake 1 to presynapse. There can be also uptake to postsynapse, uptake 2. And when dopamine is synthesized and it is uptaken into this vesicle, this is called granular uptake. So three types of uptakes are there. So here termination of action means we can inhibit this granular uptake, so there will be no storage and there will be degradation of dopamine, or we can inhibit the uptake 1 or uptake 2, so that they will be degraded here by MAO and COMT. Okay, and in cholinergic there is no uptake of acetylcholine, so there is no question of termination reaction by acetylcholine uptake. Okay. However, after degradation of acetylcholine esterase, there is uptake of choline, so that will increase the action, because choline will be a precursor for the synthesis of acetylcholine. So here there will be no termination. Termination action in sympathetic and parasympathetic is done by enzyme degradation, and uptake only in case of sympathetic, and presynaptic action for both sympathetic and parasympathetic. And that presynaptic action means they will act on the presynaptic receptors which inhibit this calcium, and so exocytosis will be inhibited, the release will be inhibited. So presynaptic action inhibits its own release. That's how termination of action occurs. So in this way we can discuss the neurohumoral transmission of both sympathetic and parasympathetic. Thank you.